welcome to another NACA podcast. We are here on site at Virginia Union University, one of the major HBCUs. And we're thrilled to be here invited by Dr. Lucas, who is the president of Virginia Union, who has set the standard for what HBCUs should be doing in providing affordable home ownership for their community, for their alumni, for their students, and for their staff. Dr. Hakim Lucas. Dr. Lucas?
Hey, thank you. And as I said, I am extremely excited to be here with the founder and president of NACA, none other than Mr. Bruce Marks. Thank you for having me.
It's great to be here with you because, you know, people talk about partnerships. And a lot of times it's just partnerships which are cosmetic.
Yeah.
But the partnership with NACA in VUU is really not just unique, but substantive, because what you've been able to do as an HBCU is to take it to the next level. When you talk about financial management, talk about home ownership, and what you're doing, not just at VUU, but what is setting a standard for other HBCUs around the country. Can you talk about that?
Well, thank you. I mean, first, it's an honor to find an organization that is mutually focused on the same type of mission. And that mission is economic social mobility and the justice that comes around home ownership. What we find, particularly at historically black colleges and universities, that it's equally as difficult to find partners who are committed to that mission and the hard work of getting people to home ownership.
Right.
What we've learned and what we appreciate more than anything about our partnership with NACA is that, one, we can do the training, right? Financial literacy is important. But then financial management, right? To know how much you spend, to know where you spend, to know what you can afford, and then to create the discipline, the financial discipline.
Right.
So the literacy, the management, and the discipline. What NACA has provided that is quite an affinity to Virginia Union is for any higher education institution is the curriculum.
Right.
It's the guidance that comes through the advisors, and then it's the accountability that persons have to following through on what their homework is.
And so when you look at what you're doing at Virginia Union, so it's the students, as you're saying, it's to have the actual curriculum to go through. And talk to me, because you were saying about how you're tying this to their graduation and any kind of financial assistance.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that again, Bruce, and the opportunity to explain further. So for everybody watching on the podcast, one, clearly you know how to get in touch with NACA. But the second is to get an educational partner that can work with you to manifest the realities of what does it really mean to live the good life and attain generational wealth. At Virginia Union, it is important for us that every student, particularly as this generation says, secures the bag. To secure the bag for us begins with that notion of home ownership. There's only one asset that we all know that cannot be created any more than it has. And in fact, the oceans of the world are attacking it and trying to diminish it due to global warming, and that's land. And so to be able to buy land, to own your own home and use that as the foundation to your own wealth creation is critical. So the first thing we've learned, and we've made many mistakes going through this, making it an option, letting them go by themselves on their own, figuring it out. And there are three things that I found by my mentorship from Bruce, saying one, as Bruce always says, no, people need to understand and to see for themselves what they're doing. And so mandating the participation of financial literacy and management programs at the university so students can get that wide awakening about how much do you spend? What do you spend on? What are you using your money for? And you realize that, I have resources, I'm just misappropriating them.
Right.
The second is that we have to make it mandatory. Look, if you're serious about anything, you have to make it a part of the experience. So for us, tying financial management and home ownership to student loans. One thing that we know, if you want to borrow money from the federal government for education, you have to have entrance and exit counseling. And financial literacy has become a mandate of the Department of Education for the university to have to validate borrowers. And what we realize is we don't want our financial literacy simply to be about your ability to pay the government back, but how do you leverage your opportunity to borrow a low-cost loan and low-cost debt for advancing your life and then being able to pay for the things that we know that are important. The third is, as we said, making sure that there is a class, a curriculum with books and manuals that they can read. And I'm telling you, that professor, the advisor, and having that person in that local NACA office is critical. If you allow me to add, I think the second part, which I think is the most important part of our partnership for all those podcasters and listeners to hear, is that NACA Richmond office is co-located close to the university. And we have the NACA Center for Economic Justice, in which we have a director who's in charge. And that person is responsible for working with the NACA office to navigate students, staff, and alumni at Virginia Union through this process.
And one of the things that you were saying, Dr. Lucas, is that to be able to, for people to really understand how they spend their money. So one of the things that we're doing, and we're doing with you, is that people can access through their, bank accounts. They can see all their transactions that they've done over the last 24 months, and they would categorize it. So they would know where they spend their money at Starbucks or at Walmart, and how in the different categories, so they can really see where there are opportunities to have a tighter budget, to have some more money left over, and to really manage that. Because I think sometimes we talk about financial management in sort of broad terms, but when people look at how they actually spend their money, not how they think that spend the money, because the studies show that 80% of people do not know where 20% of their money goes. And that's a significant amount of money. So that key that you're requiring that financial management is really crucial.
Well, it's one of the lessons learned from you, actually, Bruce. I think, there are a lot of places, podcasters, that you can go to get access to a low-cost mortgage and participate. But the differentiation between NACA and any of those other places you would go is that, one, it's still going to be based on credit and not credibility. And two, you're not being instilled with the financial discipline to maintain your home after you get into your home.
Right.
And we all know that the competition of needs and wants is the issue that underlines debt and consumer debt. Whether you're in a season now in our federal government where we're dealing with efficiency and effectiveness, no one can argue RD, independent, doesn't matter. That if you're going to grow and if you're going to be the #1 nation in the world, you have to know where your money is.
Yep.
If you're gonna be a wealthy individual and you want to get to your goal of generational wealth, you have to know where your money is.
Yeah.
And the competition between what I want and what I need always comes down to that subscription that you wanted 2 years ago and you really don't use now, but you continue to have it on your debit.
Yep.
And so, I think what makes NACA so critical is that it forces you to look at your mistakes and your financial footprint and realize this one discovery. And this is what all of our financial management curriculum and planning and teaching is about. That everything you need to own your home, you've already spent on something else.
That's brilliant. It is brilliant. So that's the financial management part, that you are setting the standard, and not just for HBCUs, but for universities nationwide. But let's talk about the other two components of this. So you got the financial management.
Yep.
Now what we're doing here today is we have, over the next, these 3 days, is we're doing an Achieve the Dream event.
Yep.
We're at Virginia Union. So people are coming here, not just from Richmond, but from Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, around the country. They're coming to Virginia Union, and you have provided this great facility, and people are going through the 4 steps in the home buying process. They go to a workshop, step 1, they upload their information, step 2, they meet with the NACA counselor, step 3, and they meet with the NACA mortgage specialist to be approved, or their next steps for NACA's Best in America mortgage. And we'll talk about that mortgage in a second. But that's, you know, that makes Virginia Union the focal point, not just for its students and alumni, but for your community, the residents, the city of Richmond, and the state of Virginia.
Yeah.
So if you can talk a little bit about that.
Well, I mean, this second leg of the stool, podcasters, is critical. The question is for all of us who are seeking some level of access, is where do we go to find it? Do we go to the local church? Do we go to the city government? Do we go to a community-based organization? And in Richmond, Virginia, we're saying, hey, you can come to Virginia Union. That higher education and educational institutions can be anchor institutions and partners within the community for a gathering space. What I love, and I came and I found the Achieve the Dream event in New York. I came to visit and I saw it for the first time with Bruce there. I mean, over 10,000 folk gathered in New York just to do the purpose of what we're hosting today. And what is phenomenal about the second leg is that when you access the opportunity to show your preparedness or learn what you need to do to get prepared,
right, is
that it is a family event. And I think it is a part, once again, of the ethos of Virginia Union. One thing I love about being at a HBCU, particularly in our local community, is that no matter where I go, I can find somebody, whether or not they've graduated from the university, to say, I grew up on the campus.
Right.
Now, through NACA and our partnership, we're able to Achieve the Dream event to usher in a new generation of young people who will say, I grew up on Virginia Union's campus. That's where we got our home. That's where we got our house. And hopefully they can say, that's where I want to get my education.
And to take that, so here we're going to have thousands of people over the next 3 days. So, which is amazing. And they're accessing NACA's Best in America mortgage. No down payment, no closing costs, no fees, no PMI. You're right. At a below market fixed rate. And today's rate is 5.625 for a 30-year, 4.875 for a 15-year.
Wow.
It's amazing. And we never look at someone's credit score.
Right.
But what you were just saying in terms of how do you expand it, not just from here. So now we're talking about reaching out to your thousands of alumni.
Yes.
And saying, okay, even though you might not live in Richmond anymore,
right,
you might live in Seattle or San Francisco or New York or Boston or Florida, whatever, they can come together, the alumni, and they can, again, particular to Virginia Union, access the NACA mortgage to become a homeowner. So they might not be your 18 or 25-year-old students here. They might be your 40 or 45-year-old or 50-year-old alumni around the country.
It was, once again, Bruce's idea. I started out, ladies and gentlemen, simply saying, hey, I want this as a part of the value proposition to deliver for the student. And Bruce said, no, you got to use it also for your staff and your alum. The lesson learned here is that education should never stop playing a critical role in the ability of students, whether they are current or graduated, to achieve the dream, right?
Absolutely.
And so with the partnership, we are afforded an opportunity to say, hey, if you graduated 30 years, 40, 50 years, 10 years, and you are still stuck in the conundrum of I'm renting, I want to own, or I've owned and I've lost, and how do I get myself back in a position to use real estate and home ownership as a way to get to financial freedom, independence, and empowerment, that this is a program that's for you. And no one's left out. For staff, Bruce, I think you'll be excited to know that it's become one of the recruitment tools for the university. So when we're looking for high quality, high level talent that are at other universities, other parts of the country, and they want to move to Richmond, what can we do? Well, we can say, hey, we can help you with some housing, and not just ownership, but the program allows for rental access and also for the access to the best quality home mortgage that you have in the country.
I got to tell you a story.
Tell me.
The head of education for the state of Massachusetts.
Okay.
So I meet with him and he says, do you realize who I am, what I've done? He used to be the superintendent of schools in Lawrence, Massachusetts.
Wow.
And he said, I needed to have teachers who reflected who the student body is. You know, not, you know, people of color, people who can relate to the students. He said, I use NACA. And that's how I recruited my teachers.
Wow.
So they can get a mortgage with NACA, the best American mortgage.
Yeah.
And that's how, and he did this for 5 years.
Wow.
And the performance level of Lawrence, Massachusetts students went from one of the worst to one of the best.
Yes.
So, and we had no idea that he was doing that.
I can tell you I have 2 right now, staff members who are at the end of the process, who will become homeowners in the next 6 months at least. Let me tell you, we all know what debt does. Debt creates a psychology that depreciates one's sense of self and identity and disables their ability to navigate through this world. What homeownership does, it reignites a spark of identity, particularly when we deal with mental health and wellness today.
Yep, absolutely.
That helps people feel like there's somebody. Like you can have the nastiest person as soon as they get qualified, clap the plastic hands, and all of a sudden praise a God that they were just mad at an hour ago. I mean, you know, what this partnership does to help us not only instill in students, but into our alum and into staff members, this like feeling of accomplishment. When you say achieve the dream, it is really real. Because a lot of people dream of this home ownership that they couldn't get because of NACA.
And you know, a lot of people, as you know, you talk about crime, and they talk about, you know, we need more police, we need more of that. But who's the best crime fighter? The best crime fighter is a homeowner. That homeowner is going to protect his or her property and his or her neighborhood. So we need more homeowners, and not to say that we have to gentrify a neighborhood. We need the people who've been fighting in those neighborhoods to keep that neighborhood safe, to benefit from that activism, so they can be a homeowner and they can protect their home and their neighborhood and their community.
I mean, this is, as you said, just great points. That home ownership is not just about building personal identity, but it is about a community.
Absolutely.
And building communities.
Yes.
And one thing that we know in 2025, we all suffer from communities that have deteriorated. Whether it was gentrification, persons moving out, and the market's exploding, and they're looking at home ownership as opportunities to get inheritances and liquidating the inheritances. What we do understand is that in today's world, in today's climate, particularly when we look at local economies like Richmond, it's the ability of anchor institutions like universities to step up and create communities again. And to say that I'm importing the next taxpayer, the next person who will not just be a student who needs affordable housing, but also people who need market rate, who are also going to be teachers, administrators, and leaders who can, all of us can create together. These whole notions of redlining, these whole notions of living in communities that are only about economic status, where you come from, segregated environments. NACA and Virginia Union together help to destabilize that. And what we're most excited about is that we have become a model that other HBCUs and NACA have partnered with around the country. So you can go to North Carolina, you can go to Florida, and you can go to the other states that you said, where people, we are committing, saying, wait, if Richmond has declared a housing shortage, then we can get with NACA, we can work as NACA builds homes, as we build people, we can also build communities.
And that's a key term, key word, communities. Because when you say that, because when you think about home ownership, a lot of people think of it as an individualistic thing. I'm going to generate wealth for myself. But what we're building is the key word that you said, communities. And that can be, so then it's not individual home ownership, it's part of a community.
That's right.
It's having people, yes, you can have a below rate mortgage, you can have a market rate, You can have people who have a housing choice voucher using that for the mortgage payment, not just to pay the landlord. And you have people who own multifamilies, because we know who are the best landlords. It's the one who lives side by side with their tenants.
I mean, look, I believe Bruce is celebrating just about his 44th year in the business. And
I have not aged one day, right?
Not one day. He still has all his hair in his wit.
Yes, there you go.
But he is underappreciated and undercelebrated for how he has brought the ability of people who are living at and below the poverty line to find a lifeline to live the American dream.
But it's respect for what people do. You know, during the pandemic, we said, oh, all of a sudden service workers, they have our respect. But that's dwindled because, people doing private equity, they're just doing spreadsheets. They're so disconnected with what's going on. People who have those jobs that we rely on during tough times and we take for granted during the good times.
I mean,
and they deserve to be homeowners.
I mean, that's critical because, we've lived, and of course, as in higher education, we've trained a whole generation to think that if you work a certain job, you're not going to live the best life. Like, if you're going to be a teacher, don't be that. You'll be underpaid. You need to go into STEM sciences. Don't be this, don't be that, because you can't get this and you can't get that. And I think one of the impacts of our partnership we are restoring the value of the professions that build community.
Absolutely.
You need teachers. You need preachers. You need firefighters. You need policemen. You need the servicemen and women who keep a community going. And this allows them to access it and to access home ownership in a way that keeps them whole. I have not realized until going through this partnership how many people are paying rents that super exceed what a mortgage could be.
Absolutely. Yeah. Crazy.
I mean, it's like, the cost of goods and services and inflation, and particularly you said during the pandemic. But once again, to see families, I mean, it's Friday. It's not even, it's about 1:00. People are streaming in to learn. We're not even at the peak and you're past 1,000 people.
Yep.
And I mean, it's like transforming lives. I'm happy that RHA has joined in, Richmond Redevelopment and Housing Authority, because they're also realizing that their public housing cannot be a final destination for people's for housing and home ownership. That there's something more for them, and that we get to be a part of stimulating this new community of homeowners and people who you don't have to be wealthy to buy.
and they blame the residents. They say, oh, you've been in public housing or have a Section 8 for 10, 20, or you're the second generation, as if someone wants to be there because they didn't have the opportunity to become a homeowner. And when you say about paying high rents, when you scratch it, what does that mean? That means that you're paying, 40, 50% of your income to someone who's already wealthy.
That's right.
To someone who you're generating wealth for the already
and
wealthy individuals.
Bruce, don't live in the community.
Right. And all they care about is to get their maximum rent. They don't care whether you have 4 or 5 people in a room, whether you're renting out to students who aren't taking care of it. You want responsible, landlords, but you gotta live there. And so, as you say, when you provide home ownership for people who are going to live in the neighborhood, live in Richmond, when you do services in Richmond, that changes Richmond.
It's transformation. We have talked about a lot, but for everybody that's listening, we've talked about how you can participate in access. We talked about how it's bigger than just you, but it's about community building. And we've laid out what I think, and I've said and will say it again, is a model for how transforming America should happen.
And those 3 legs of the stool, It's the financial management education. It is to provide the Achieve the Dream events for not just for Virginia Union students, alumni, and staff, but for the overall community.
That's right.
And then it's to reach out to the alumni who might not have graduated, but who have been part of Virginia Union.
Yep.
And instead of Virginia Union, like what all the universities do is say, hey, I want you to give money,
That's right.
and I want you to contribute
That's
for the
exactly right.
importance of what Virginia Union does, but also for Virginia Union to continue to give back,
That's right.
to educate for people who are part of the Virginia Union family.
Absolutely. I mean, the days and times, Bruce, of us trying to sell a piece of paper with our name on it and the student's name on it and say that the degree is all you need and leave them by themselves. Say, after you get your degree, then you go ahead and you get your job, you get your home, you get your family. Those days are over. Our value is in our ability to stay connected to the student, even beyond a sheet of paper, and say that we will make sure that you get access to that best quality life.
I love the partnership. I love you, my
Thank
friend.
you, man. I love you too, Bruce.
Yeah, and
I'm the only one that can make Bruce smile and laugh. So, look, the rest of you, I know he's like, oh, Bruce. But to lead something like this, it takes a focus, a seriousness, and you got to stand up. And we appreciate your legacy of economic justice.
and the only way I can get anything to go viral is to having you on it.
I appreciate you, man. Thank you.
Thank you, my friend.
No, man. Thank you, man. Great combo. We can do it more.
Thanks, everybody.